In small group learning or teaching, the main idea is that learning is seen as social or collective activity. In the 1960s and 1970s, it was typical to emphasize knowledge and the cognitive side of learning. The ideas of social learning are ancient. In our time, after social constructivism became one of the main pedagogical approaches after the 1970s, the discourse of learning together has focused on the collaborative nature of learning, socially situated learning, and knowledge being constructed through interaction with others. Learning is seen as an interactive and social process facilitated by the teacher, and the students have an active role in learning. Peer learning is also one umbrella term that describes the activity of learning together, focusing on students learning from each other through sharing and collaboration.
Small groups in learning is a very multifaceted and complicated phenomenon. We have very different kinds of small groups, and they can have very different functions in learning processes. Depending on what the function of the group is, the groups will work in a little bit different ways. The work can be more facilitated, more structured in some learning, and the teacher's role, of course, changes also accordingly. So it's very important to be aware of what kind of learning processes are in question and what is the role of the group in the learning process. Sometimes group is only part of some other functions or some other activities in the group. Sometimes the group is the learning activity.
Small groups can have different functions. In general, the functions can be described with two different categories: learning groups and project groups. In learning groups, the main idea and function is to reflect on the learning process, whereas project groups are more target-oriented and aim at a product or result, and often have a clear start and end. In any group learning process, it is important to talk about working in groups. That is, we need to discuss with the students about the method of learning in groups. In addition to the content the groups are learning, they need to regularly reflect on the group process. As teachers, we need to monitor both the learning goals and the process. When monitoring the process, we must reflect on how we are learning, why we are working this way, and what happens in the process. So to support group learning, we need to consider the group's working itself as a learning goal and a target of reflection. What does it mean that we are working as a group? Do we need guidelines and principles to support our working? How do we make sure that we can work well together? The theories of group dynamics have roots in psychology. Wilfred Bion has presented a theory of dual tasks of a group. In order for the group to function well, there are two tasks that need to succeed simultaneously: the content task and the safety task. The content task refers to the actual reason why the group is formed. There is a goal that the group needs to achieve together. The second task is about the feeling of security in the group. In order to successfully work in a group, its members must feel that the group has a good atmosphere. The sense of safety and security always comes first. Being, as in how we act in a group, security and a sense of belonging are important. After gaining this, we can really start working towards the shared goal. The group cannot fulfill the first task without the second one, and the second one is not enough alone, without a purpose.
Safety is very important, and it's difficult to explain where it comes from, because it's part of the safety is that you feel that you are being accepted. In my view, to generate a successful group learning situation, this requires that the safety and comfort of all participants is carefully taken into account. If you get the feeling that you are not accepted, the situation becomes very unsafe. And very often, group learning situations can be frightening to students. This is something which is very much underappreciated, but it's difficult to learn if you feel that you are frightened. When you feel that you are under threat, and sometimes there is no real threat, but you might feel that way, and this has to be accepted. So tools and the techniques that help people feeling safe, they should be used, I think, much more than they are used today.
When starting work together, the beginning is important. How do we get to know each other and the atmosphere and mode of behavior? Experienced safety enables a successful and meaningful learning environment for adult learners. Matrushka, a doll inside a doll, is a suitable metaphor to illustrate the complex nature of the experience of being in a group. Different layers of the Russian Matrushka doll represent the complexity of human being, and how many layers each person is willing and ready to reveal to the other participants. A safe atmosphere is important and helps us to build a trusting relationship with other learners. The layers encompass experiences as well as emotions and cognition. In a small group, one is allowed to be unfinished and incomplete. It is important to maintain openness for learning and sharing. When feeling safe, group members dare to engage in group activities, are not afraid to ask questions, and feel free to be their authentic selves. Dialogue is the key to learning and creating respect, equality and acceptance in the group. In dialogue, there is a possibility for everyone to be heard and to listen to others. This in turn creates the sense of belonging to the group.
I come from Eastern Finland, and we are regarded more talkative people there, so I'm not afraid to open my mouth and say what I think, even in groups where maybe I don't feel that safe. But of course you want to give more from yourself, and also it enables the expression of also the negative things when you feel safe. Showing the positive sides and telling about positive things is easy. To really develop and learn, you really need to also sometimes focus on the things that need to be developed further. And that's what safety enables.
All group learning processes require participation, taking responsibility and collaboration from all members. When working with groups, the teacher is always taking care of both tasks, content and security. It is important to pay attention to the relations between the teacher and the group members, the dynamics of power and authority. The teacher should support and encourage the students' active participation and their participatory role. in the group. The group's readiness to take responsibility and work as a group is something that the teacher should be sensitive to. But the main guideline is to lead the group to an increasing degree of self-direction.
When planning small group activities, there are a lot of things for the teacher to consider and to plan. The group size, the group function, and what the group is aiming at affects the planning phase also. Is the group work facilitated, or is the group more of a learning group where the point is to reflect on learning and reflect on the things together? One great part of the planning phase also is for the teacher to think his or her own role in the group. How are we supporting the groups working together? The peers in the group are working with each other, and the teacher role is very different than in lecture teaching, for example.
For a group to function well, feeling of responsibility of everybody is really required. Like, it's not that you have like some leader who is responsible and divides the tasks, but that everybody feels that we are responsible for this together, and we share the commitment.
One concept in the discussion of social learning is the concept of community of practice by Etienne Benge and Jean Leif. It refers to a group of individuals taking part in an activity as a joint activity and mutual engagement. The interconnected communities of practice continuously create and constitute who they are and what they do. This process involves the negotiations of meaning, as in how we understand the world and give meaning and value to things. The meaning perspectives of individuals are always different and in the context of learning. It is important to open and negotiate these meanings in a group. The process in itself is reflective and opens the space for social learning. It is only after the sense of safety that the goal-oriented working becomes meaningful. However, the group needs to have a purpose, an aim to work for. If there isn't one, the group will start to focus on group processes and drift into a crisis or lose the purpose of being together. This process is called group's regression, and it negatively affects learning within the group. Sometimes the goal or purpose is given from outside, but it is always good to stop to reflect on the group members' personal goals and group's goals, both given and self-introduced. Setting a goal gives a work direction, and the group members can be more self-directed or be led by the teacher as they work towards the goal. Furthermore, the safety task needs to be fostered and looked after as long as the learning process is going on. A good beginning is essential for group work, but supportive working methods are also significant. Through dialogue, sharing and reflecting, the group can maintain openness and an inquiring attitude, and thereafter keep working together. If the group members feel that the group is safe, open and equal, they can start to look at each other as being different, mirroring oneself to the others. Shared, even critical investigation of matters can lead to a learning and developing attitude, resulting in that the group starts to support and develop itself. The strengthening of the community requires dialogue and sharing, participation and becoming part of the group.
To learn by discussion, it means to me that, first of all, of course, I need to listen a lot. Basically, it means that I kind of have rather a personal connection with the other people in this small group. And then I rather openly discuss with them. So basically by listening them and their experiences, and then possibly if I have something similar, sharing my own experiences. I would say that it gives you also a personal meaning when it comes to learning, when you learn in a group, in interaction, by discussing. So you kind of connect with the backgrounds of people and the way how people might experience something in different ways and so on.
The planning of a group-based learning process has to be structured. As in any teaching, we need to consider assignments, learning activities, assessment and feedback. But we also need to leave some space, if possible, for group processes and alterations. Depending on the group's function, the activities and methods can vary according to the teacher's capabilities and preferences, the theme or function of the course and the resources that we have. There can be a tendency towards either more dialogue and small group discussion and reflection, or more functional and active methodology, or a mixture of the both. It also makes a great difference if the group process is always led by the teacher, being present at the group, or if the students work independently by following given instructions or organize the learning themselves.
One of the main benefits of group learning is what comes down to the social learning in general, that we always have more opinions, more views, more ideas that we can share, we can learn from each other, and we also get a lot of emotional and psychosocial support from the other learners. In this, peers are a very nice resource, a very nice way of supporting each other, and it's the kind of support that us teachers cannot really provide for the students ourselves. So, group learning is something that I think everyone should try, and everyone should see and experience the benefits of learning together.